Unnecessary animals rotted alive on an abandoned farm. But when a neighbor finds them… After meeting his aunt and grandmother, Miroslav went out wandering around the beautiful village. The village was large and had many farms. Most of the villagers depend on agriculture and livestock. Miroslav arrived at the abandoned farm located on the banks of a large and beautiful river. Everything on the farm looked old. Even the wooden house in the middle of the farm was deserted. The man decided to enter that farm and wander around. At first, he thought it was completely deserted, but as he approached the wooden house, he began to hear the braying of donkeys. He found 2 donkeys in the yard of the house, and they were standing in the hot sun. The animals were in such a sorry condition, with bruises on their skin and cuts on their head and legs, and they were so thin that their bones were sticking out. The 2 donkeys were very hungry and thirsty, but they had nothing to eat or drink. Miroslav felt very sad when he saw the 2 donkeys in the situation and immediately decided to help them because he loves animals very much and suffers a lot when he sees them suffering. It was found that the 2 donkeys were tied with a strong rope to a pole in the house, and when he tried to untie them, he found that the rope caused ulcers on their legs and deep wounds. The man changed a lot of effort how to cut the rope, and when he finished, he took a bucket and went down to the river and brought water and grass and kept watching them while they drank and ate everything he brought in a few seconds. After Miroslav finished feeding the 2 donkeys, he saw 2 men passing by the farm. Then he immediately went to them and asked them about the owner of the 2 donkeys. The man said that the owner of the 2 donkeys lives in the village and she no longer comes to the farm and doesn't care about her. Miroslav got the farm owner's address and went to her house. When he asked her why she neglected the donkeys, the old woman said that her husband had died and she no longer went to the farm. As for the 2 donkeys, she told him that she had forgotten about them and that she no longer needed them because they were no longer useful, and that she had left them there until they died. The man was shocked by the woman's words and asked to sell the 2 donkeys to him. The woman refused at first, but when Miroslav paid a large sum, she agreed. The man ran back to the farm and found that the 2 donkeys were still lying on the ground because their legs were injured and they could no longer stand. Hours later, the man got a call from an animal welfare association telling him he was willing to take the donkeys and then took Miroslav to the address. The next day, 2 men arrived in a large vehicle, removed the 2 animals, and left. Days passed and Miroslav was worried about the donkeys, so he called to check on them. The rescuer reassured him and asked him to come and visit the 2 animals. When Miroslav arrived at the address, he found himself in front of a large farm with 3 horses, sheep, and cows, in addition to a large number of domestic birds of all kinds. A man who took the 2 donkeys welcomed him, and there he met a beautiful woman who was the owner of the farm. I thanked him very much for the work he had done and took him to the place where the 2 donkeys he had rescued were. Miroslav couldn't believe what his eyes saw when he saw the 2 donkeys. They had completely recovered from the bruises and cuts covering their bodies. He was very happy when he saw the 2 donkeys running around the farm and enjoying their time, and he approached them and kept touching and caressing them. He noticed that they were attracted to him as soon as they saw him for the first time and stayed as if to thank him for his help.